Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to Legends Lore. Here's another tier list for y'all. Today, we've got Super Mario Bros. The movie coming out. So I wanted to drop this tier list ranking all of the Mario games, the mainline games I'm focusing on. So I do separate ones for Mario Kart and stuff like that. And let's start with Super Mario Bros. The original game. The original still holds up quite well. It's a classic for a reason. It's definitely not on the same level as a lot of these other ones, though. As the series has expanded, we've seen the growth of the mechanics as well as the level design, so this one does remain kind of ancient, but even playing it nowadays, I just played it again, I think it still holds up quite well. I'm going to put it in B. Alright, so we got the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 or Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. It is extremely hard. Still, though, I'm not a huge fan of this game. It's not a massive step up from Super Mario Bros. In fact, it gets the level design even worse, I think. It's unfairly hard at times, but I'm also not great at 2D platformers, so I'm definitely not the right type of person to be playing this. There's really no bad Mario games in the main line, so I would put this in C, but it is one of my least favorite. Next, we've got Doki Doki Panic or Super Mario Bros. 2 in the US. Super Mario Bros. 2 is quite a lot of fun. It's so unique and different from the rest of the series. It's a really refreshing game to play, especially when you play a lot of the similar type of 2D Mario games. I can't say, though, that the level design or mechanics is anywhere near my favorite Mario games, but I think this is a good one and kind of underrated. I'm going to put this in B as well. So now we have the king of the Super Mario 2D platformer, Super Mario Bros. 3. This is going in S, of course. This is one of the best Super Mario games of all time. It's an incredible 2D platformer. The level design is off the charts. The new power-ups are fantastic. It's a game that's endlessly replayable, whether you're playing on the NES or you're playing the Super Mario Bros. Advanced games. I really enjoyed that one growing up on my Game Boy. I've loved every version of this game I've gotten a chance to play. It's definitely an S tier. Moving on to the Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. Super Mario World is one of my favorite Mario games also. It's right up there with Mario Bros. 3 for me in S tier. I'm definitely sliding up there. It's hard to pick which one, though. This one's got Yoshi, which is fantastic. The Cape power-up is also quite good. The level design is very unique in both. I think I'm going to go with Super Mario Bros. 3 because it has a bit more nostalgia for me, but Super Mario World is right there next to it. It's such a great game and phenomenal on every single level. Next, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. Yoshi's Island really has nothing to do with the Mario franchise. It's a completely different type of game that's really spun off its own set of games. For what it is, though, it's a really cool concept and a lot of fun. It is hard to compare with the rest of the Mario games because it's not really a Mario game, but I've had a lot of fun playing this one over the years. It's always great to go back to. I'm going to put this in A. Super Mario Land was a great, valiant attempt to make a Mario game on the Game Boy. It's got some cool levels, but it's also very short and not necessarily the most replayable in my opinion. It's a game that I think is super forgettable, especially up against the next game we're going to talk about. It's an achievement, so I'm considering B, but I think it's significantly worse than Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. 2. I'm going to put it at the top of C. Alright, so next is Super Mario Land 2, the 6 Golden Coins. This is the game that introduced Wario, but this also has some of the most creative level design out there. It's not necessarily a hard game. It still borders on like Mario Land, where they are some of the easier games in the franchise. But recently I just replayed this and I found myself really in awe of the different worlds, the level design, and how creative they got, especially compared to the mainline series. It gives you a reason to want to play the Game Boy Mario games. They're not just watered down ports of the originals. They have a unique identity of their own, and 6 Golden Coins really cements that. I'm actually going to drop 6 Golden Coins at the top of my A tier. I think this is a fantastic game, and if you haven't played this one, definitely check it out, especially now because it's on the Game Boy Nintendo Switch Online app. Next is Super Mario 64, and admittedly, I've always been a bit bigger fan of the 3D Mario games than the 2D Mario games as I grew up with the GameCube generation. Super Mario 64 was one of those games I played when I was really young at friend's house, and then eventually as I got older and got a Nintendo 64, this became one of my favorite games to go back and replay over and over again. The level design is great and it still holds up really well. The mechanics still work great today. This is really a timeless game because of the mechanics, because of the story, and because of what it did for 3D Mario. This is going at the top of my S tier. Then the next 3D Mario game we got was Super Mario Sunshine for the Nintendo GameCube. This is the one I grew up with because I was a GameCube kid, but this game definitely always frustrated me. The controls aren't the best. The camera system is quite bad at times, but the levels are quite creative. The flood system is really fun and gives a lot of unique gameplay. I wish we could get a sequel to this, maybe one that does have a bit more refinement to it, because I think we could do something really cool with this. I'm going to drop this one in A as well, right behind Super Mario Land 2, the 6 Golden Coins. Next is Super Mario 64 DS, a pretty valiant attempt at bringing a pretty advanced game to the new hardware of the DS. I've played this one many times, but it's never been one of my favorites. I don't think it nearly does Mario 64 as well as the original. original. It's nice to be able to play as a bunch of different characters, so there's some cool added features, but I don't know how well this game has really aged, and this has just never been a personal favorite of mine. I'm gonna actually drop Super Mario 64 DS at the top of my C tier. Alright, so moving on to the DS's 2D Mario platformer, the first in the new Super Mario Bros. Games, New Super Mario Bros. It was a refreshing return to the 2D Mario series. This game was beautiful though, looking at it on the DS when it came out. It blew me away and it was so much fun. I definitely played this game over and over and over again. But amongst the rest of the series, I don't know if it's really stood out to me. I'm gonna put this one in the middle of my B tier, right behind the original, but in front of Super Mario Bros. 2. The first Wii game we have on the list, Super Mario Galaxy. I remember when I got this game. I remember diving into it the first time, and this is one of my favorite video games of all time. Super Mario Galaxy is an all-time classic to me. It uses the motion controls of the Wii in a way that's never invasive, but also tells one of the more unique Mario stories with some of the best mechanics in all Mario games. The worlds themselves may not be as expansive as 64 or Odyssey, but I truly have always loved everything this game brought to the table. This is my favorite Mario game, and I'm putting it at the top of my S tier. New Super Mario Bros. Wii brought so many different things to the new Super Mario Bros. Series. We got Yoshi's in this game. We got, for the first time ever in the Mario series, 4-player co-op. That was a big thing. I played countless times with both my sister, my parents, my friends. This became one of the ultimate games to play with a large group of people, especially when you could pick up your friends and throw them off the edge. There was more fighting about that than there was actually playing the game when I played with my friends. And this game actually raised the difficulty quite a bit from New Super Mario Bros. This was a game that I struggled with as a kid, and ultimately I had to wait until I was older to actually finish it. I would put New Super Mario Bros. Wii right behind the original in my B tier. Next we have Super Mario Galaxy 2, which takes everything from the original Super Mario Galaxy and improves on it, adding Yoshi and so many other mechanics to the game. The worlds were bigger, a bit more expansive, and there were so many new elements that added a lot of really high value to this game. I know a lot of people have this ranked higher than the original Super Mario Galaxy, and for me, maybe it's nostalgia, but I can't quite put it that high. Super Mario Galaxy 2, though, is still in my S tier for sure, and I'm gonna put it right behind 64. After that, we had New Super Mario Bros. 2 on the 3DS. New Super Mario Bros. 2 is often considered the easiest Mario game of all time because of the coin mechanic. You get so many lives. And while that is true, and it's a game that you can run through really fast because it doesn't really matter how many times you die, the level design and everything is still quite fun. The New Super Mario Bros. Series at the time was starting to feel like it was overstaying its welcome. There weren't too many new ideas that added a lot of flavor compared to the 3D Mario games, but this game is still good. It's fun, and I always enjoy playing it. I'm gonna put this at the bottom of my B. Next is Super Mario 3D Land, which introduced the whole 2.5D kind of perspective to Mario games. It was a game that utilized the 3DS's 3D technology so well and paved the way for games like Super Mario 3D World. I've always loved this game. It is a bit easier, but I do think the unique level design and the attention to detail added here, especially for the new type of concept that this Mario game was, it doesn't get enough credit for creating this type of concept and being the first one to kind of do this. I think it's a really wonderful experience. I'm going to put this in my A tier. Next, New Super Mario Bros. U. This is one of the more well-rounded New Super Mario Bros. Games, but again, it feels a bit repetitive. The world design isn't unique enough, although the graphics do look fantastic. It was fun to play 5-player with this, even though the 5th player can only drop little blocks, but that it was helpful, but sometimes you could also kill your friends by putting the block right above them as they drop. But this has never been an all-time favorite for me, although I can recognize the quality of the game. I'd put it in the middle of my B tier, right behind New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Next is Super Mario 3D World, for a long time, the most underrated Mario game of all time. Now with the Switch port, which I guess is not on this tier list, I'll have to add that at the end because Bowser's Fury must be talked about. People are finally coming around how great this game was. I played this on launch day and I really loved it. It was so nice to play a 3D style Mario game with 4 people. This takes everything that 3D Land does and improves on it tenfold. The maps are expansive, the collectibles are great, there's so many wonderful elements to this game. I'm gonna put this at the top of my A tier. This is a really great game and I think it's improved slightly even with the Switch port. Okay, we're almost done, but we got Super Mario Run. Super Mario Run is a game that I never put too much time into. I've played it a little bit. It doesn't feel like a Mario game. It is a mobile game, so it does its best with what it does, but when we're looking at the rest of the series, I've got to put it in D tier. And finally, the last game on this list, Super Mario Odyssey, the newest one for the Nintendo Switch. It's a masterpiece. It's an all-time great game. There's so much content here and so much to explore. We've started to see all these franchises go open world, whether it was Zelda and then Sonic recently, Pokemon, and Mario technically hasn't done that yet. This is still in the vein of a Mario 64, but it's the biggest, most expansive worlds we've seen yet, with most collectibles, the most things to do, endless hours of content. Mario Odyssey is very close to being my favorite Mario game of all time, and in fact, I wouldn't argue with anyone who says it's the best Mario game of all time. I think mechanically it probably is, but Galaxy still has my heart. I'm going to put it second place here. And then I'm going to just throw on the tier list right now Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. It's mostly the same game from 3D World, but with some very necessary refinements and added improvements. But Bowser's Fury is so fantastic, and like I was mentioning with Mario Odyssey, I think we're going to go in that direction here in the future, where we have one huge, gigantic overworld that's even bigger than Bowser's Fury. Bowser's Fury is so much fun to play. It was so much fun collecting all the stars, and it was enough of a bite-sized piece that it added an enhanced 3D world, while never feeling overwhelming, but also making me really want a lot more. So I would throw that game, if it was on the list, in the S tier. Okay, so those are my rankings of the mainline Mario games, the 3D and 2D platformers. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, make sure you're sticking around with my channel for more video game content. I've released a lot of stuff related to Star Wars books recently, so if you're interested in Star Wars books somehow, making that transition over from video games to Star Wars books, you're going to want to check those videos out. And of course, I keep tier lists coming on the channel, especially when it relates to new movies or new entries in franchises. So make sure you're hitting that like button, you're subscribing to the channel for more content like this, and you're commenting below, letting me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.